Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas. April is National Poetry Month, and to celebrate, we've brought poet, playwright, and professor Nate Marshall to The Stacks. Nate is the poet behind the poetry collection Wild Hundreds and the critically acclaimed Finna. Today, we talk about poetry's cool factor, the idea of a first poet, and the issues with recommending a book to the current president of the United States. Nate also gives us a preview for our April book club pick, which is Doppelgang Banger by Courtney Lamar Charleston, which we will be discussing on the show on Wednesday, April 27th with Nate Marshall. Get excited, people. If you want more of me and The Stacks, head to patreon.com/thestacks and join The Stacks Pack. You get perks like bonus episodes, our incredible Discord community, our monthly virtual book club, and more. Or if you like the show and don't care at all about any of the aforementioned perks, you can still join The Stacks Pack and show your love. Because the truth is, without supporters like The Stacks Pack, there is no podcast. So if you like the show, if you want to show it some love, go to patreon.com/thestacks. I want to give a quick thank you to our newest members of the Stacks Pack, Janice Mindel, Rachel Tan, Elise Shattuck, Megan Stilley, Rebecca Mongrain, Betsy Good, Ellen Willody, Nathan Bluestein, Sam Hightower, and Rebecca Perlmutter. Thank you all so much. And thank you to everyone in the Stacks Pack. Okay, let's kick off Poetry Month right. We've got my conversation with Nate Marshall. All right, everybody, I'm very excited. It is April. It is Poetry Month. It's the only, month that we celebrate around here. We don't do Black History Month. We don't do Asian American Pacific Islander Month. We don't do Snacks Are My Favorite Month, but we do, for some reason, do Poetry Month around here. And I am so excited because I am joined by one of the only poets whose work I feel like I understand and can dig into. I'm joined by the Nate Marshall. Nate, welcome to the Stacks.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Wow, that's like high praise. Dang.
It is. I am famous for being I don't understand poems. What is that idea? But I read Finna last year and I was like, wow, I get this. And then I just read Wild Hundreds and I was like, I get this too. And so now I'm I speak Nate's language. I feel like we're on the same page. But before we get into your poetry, will you sort of just give people tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Nate Marshall. I realize I'm gesturing wildly and no one can see that. So
No one can
just
see it but me.
hopefully in my voice you hear my enthusiasm. But yeah, I'm Nate Marshall. I write poems mostly and other things, and I'm from Chicago, from the South Side of Chicago, which is, I guess, the thing everyone who knows me sort of knows about me. And I teach out here at Colorado College, so I'm amongst the mountains.
Wait, do you live in Colorado?
I do. I live in Colorado, which is kind of funny given I mean, I don't know if we're gonna how much we're gonna dig in, but yeah, that's it's kind of a funny quirk that I now live in Colorado.
Where in Colorado?
I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
That's
So
on the eastern side of the state?
it
Or
is
central?
it's on the Front Range. Like the Front Range is basically everything. It's the stuff right to the east of the Rockies,
Okay.
and Colorado Springs is about an hour south of Denver.
And Colorado Springs is a very conservative place, right?
Yeah, it's a weird town. So it's a lot of military. So there's a
Okay.
bunch of bases, and the Air Force Academy is here. It's also a sort of hub for the evangelical movement. So Focus on the
Right.
Family and Young Life, and a number of organizations are kind of centered here. So it's
Hmm.
kind of a weird place because you have that, and then you have people that like nature and
Right.
smoking legal weed, and also the Olympic Committee is also here. So then
Oh,
you're also just
interesting.
it's oh, randomly there's a world class athlete just running very quickly by me. So
That's so weird.
it's a very strange collection of humans.
I spent a little time in Colorado in 2008. I worked on the Obama campaign, at a field office all the way on the western slope, but all the way in the bottom in this town called Cortez, which is in Montezuma County. If you look at the map, it's the furthest southwest of all of Colorado. And it
Okay.
is it's one of the reddest counties in the state. It was the craziest experience, and I have very, like, fond memories from the time, but I did not realize, people talk about, like, "Oh, there's red states and blue states, but every state's actually really purple." I did
Yeah,
not realize exactly what that meant, because I think of Colorado as, like, being a purple state, but, like, I didn't realize that it's, like, you have a bright fucking red county in one place, and then you have
yeah,
Denver, and, like, the county next door is where Durango was, or where Durango
yeah,
is, and that's, like, a super blue county, and, like, the first night we were there was a Michael Franti concert. Like, it was just such, like, a crazy crazy
yeah.
experience. So I have a
It's
lot of, like, weird feelings about Colorado generally.
yeah. During 2016 and that the sort of lead up to that election, I was like touring two different books, and so I was sort of going all over, and especially to these
Mm.
sort of like far flung college campuses around the Midwest and around the East or whatever. And so we're driving through all these small places, and so yeah, I just have a lot of thoughts about the way that geography shapes our politics. So in ways that we don't always think about it, especially when we're kind of like for those of us who might be focused in these like particular urban centers, right?
Mhm. You could write a poetry collection on this, and
In
I would
fact, I could.
understand it, and it would be my dream.
There it is.
Okay, I wanna know how someone who writes poetry from the South Side of Chicago discovers that they have this talent, and who tells you that you're good at it? How do you know? Like, because the reason I'm asking this question is because I had, like, a fake boyfriend in high school who always wrote poems, and,
Yeah,
like, I liked him, so I thought they were good, but, like, they're not good. Like, I still have some. So how
sure.
do you know that you're, like, actually good at poetry versus, like, a girl has a crush on you and, like, tells you that you're good at
Right.
poetry?
Well, first off, shout out that fake boyfriend. You know, it's we out here. But yeah, I don't know. So the very first poem I ever wrote in life, I was in third grade. I liked a girl.
Okay.
I wrote this poem that I was very proud of. That I think was like it was like an extended metaphor and allegory
Okay.
about like liking her and sort of like getting like working up the courage to do something about it. And funny enough, given where I live now, it was called The Mountain. And
Oh.
I never gave it to her because I was going to. I had it in my book bag, and my mom was like looking through my stuff or something and found it.
No.
And it was like folded up. And she was like, "What is this?" Because she was like, I don't know what she thought it was. It's like, I don't know my the permission slip to
Right.
join the Gangster Disciples. I don't know what you thought it was. But so she was like kind of mad. And then she like opened it and read it. And then she was like, then she kind of just laughed at me. It was like, "Oh, this is really
Oh.
sweet." And I was like, "Well, cool. I'm never gonna do this ever again." So so that was like early, but a couple years later I started writing, and really it was a few things. It was that we had to do a project in school, this thing where we had to like write a book,
Okay.
and it was a contest or whatever. And also I sort of got interested in hip hop, right? And so why those two things? Well, the book thing, I wanted to write a book, and I knew enough about poetry to understand it didn't have to take up the whole page, and so
Okay.
it was like a way
Obvious
to sort of
choice. Obvious
slash.
choice. Yeah.
I'm like, what if
Perfect.
I just write these poems?
What if it's a
Um,
bunch of haikus? Nailed
right,
it.
right, killed it, right. And so I did that, and then yeah, and then I was like interested in rhyming, and so that gave me a different sort of focus on language, right? And so so I wrote this little book. It went into the contest, and it won the contest at the level at the school. And my
Oh.
teacher, I had a teacher, Mrs. Cap. Shout out Mrs. Cap. She was like my middle school English teacher, my eighth grade home teacher. But she was like, "Yo, we're doing this thing, this poetry slam thing. You should be a part of it." And at the time, I think the poetry slam had a cutoff of you had to be 13. And I was in the seventh grade, but I was like a little older. And so it was me and a bunch of eighth graders who she had sort
Okay.
of pinpointed for this thing. And I was like, this sounds terrible. I don't want to, first off, I don't want to say this stuff in public. Why would I do that? Second off, none of these people are like my friends. They're eighth graders. We have nothing
Right.
in common. Um, and three, no. And so I took the permission slip home and just never asked. Like I just was like, I'm gonna just let this deadline pass and that'll be the
Right.
end of it. And Mrs. Cap was like, "Yo, look, I know you must have forgot. So I signed you up anyway." And if you don't come, like, you're not gonna like your grade. And so
Oh,
I was forced
wow.
into it. But it was cool because when we did the first event at the Youth Slam in Chicago at the time was this thing called like Crossing the Street. And I walked in the crossing the street and it really kind of blew my mind, right? It was all these kids who were like really interesting and cool and they dressed cool and like they seemed really smart. It was the first time I ever saw, I think, like people like freestyle rapping.
Mm,
It was just like really this beautiful space. And I was like, yo, I want to do this. I want to like be in this kind of space. And so yeah, like from that point on, I think that was when I began to really self-identify as a writer and then really
okay.
began to take it seriously. And a lot of it was really, it was like that this community was cool to me and I wanted to be a part of it. And that was sort of the way to do it. And also, like, I should say, most of the students that were in the poetry slam were high school kids. They were like probably
Okay.
16, 17, 18. And so when you're 13, that seems so old to you
Right.
that I was like, one, I'd like look up to these people, but
Right,
also
right, right.
3 years from now is so long. It's so unimaginably long that if I do this from now until then maybe I'll be okay at it.
Right.
But yeah, it was really just like Mrs. Cap and then like wanting to be a cool kid.
Okay. I don't want to mean to ask you this question, but I have to ask because I have a follow-up.
Yeah.
How old are you or what year were you born?
1989.
Okay.
I'm 32.
Okay, so you're a little younger than me. I'm assuming that you were probably up on this, but do you remember like in the late 90s, early 2000s, like that poetry was like very cool. There was like Def Poetry Jam like
Yes,
on
absolutely.
TV and
Absolutely.
like did they have a thing called Youth Speaks where you were?
Okay, so the organization in Chicago is called Young Chicago Authors.
Okay.
And I worked for them, so like
Okay.
I know a lot about this kind of world. But You Speaks is sort of the national organization, and
Okay.
they're based in the Bay.
That's where I'm
Um,
from. And so
okay,
all of my friends in high school, not all my
yeah,
friends, but like I had a group of friends who we called very creatively the poets.
there it
They
is.
didn't go to my high school, but they're a bunch of them were in Youth Speaks. But actually, my sister-in-law, I met her in high school. She's married my brother, and she was like in Youth Speaks, and she was a poet.
Yeah,
And they were very cool in high
yeah,
school. Like it was
that's
like
what
a
I'm
cool
saying.
thing to be a poet. And then there was the whole Def Poetry Jam. Like I got to go to a taping because one of my friends from high school was like on. I went to Kanye West's second time there when he brought all the suitcases. And I
Well,
never talk about this, but and I will because we're here. But he hit on me after the show, and I didn't know who he was.
wait,
This was in 2000, this
Yeezy,
fall
Yeezy hit
2004.
on you?
And he was like, hey, da da da. And I was like, hi, excuse me. Like, I don't like to be spoken to by strangers. And then my friend was like, are you actually insane? And I was like, I don't know. But he was giving me weird vibes. I didn't like it. I'm a freshman in college.
I mean,
And
first
yeah,
off,
so it was cool.
good call. But second off, wow.
Right? Do you know Bo Sia?
Yeah, absolutely.
The
So
so
yeah,
he was one of the people that night, Kanye, and then my friend Rafa, who is since been in that Train Spotting movie or
oh,
whatever.
Raphael
N-
Casal.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the homie. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
have some, yeah. So I know that Berkeley crew of poets, and so
Okay.
like, but at that time, I feel like that was like really cool, and it's
Yeah.
like not cool in the culture the way that it was. Like, I don't feel like people are like, oh, let's like go to a poetry slam or like, oh, this poet is like,
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. Do you feel
well,
like it is still?
I mean,
You're
I
in
don't.
that world.
Yeah, I don't know what the youth are up to. I
Okay.
realize this now because I'm like I teach college students, and in my
hmm
head, I'm like fairly young, and also
Yeah.
like in the context of being a college professor, I'm still quite young, even though I've been doing it for a while. And but yeah, like to my students, like
You're washed.
I'm a little washed. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like
for sure.
approaching washedness, and it's it's deeply troubling to me.
I'm older than
Deeply.
you. I'm deeply
Well,
washed. Don't worry.
well,
It's
such is
fine.
life. But
Yeah.
so I have wow, you gave me like a bunch of things. I have a bunch of stories. Okay, I have a Bosia story,
Okay.
or I have just a deaf poetry story.
Okay.
Yeah, also I like love Rafa and David. They're great. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't
I
really
so
have a
I
story.
didn't
I
know
just know they're great.
David, but David went to Brown with my brother, and they were both
There it is.
mixed guys at Brown from the Bay. So apparently they got confused a lot, and my brother was like, "I'm not that guy." And
LOL. I like knew David. I knew David less well than Raphael because Raphael worked at the University of Wisconsin for some time
Okay.
for this program called First Wave that I very nearly went to for undergrad. But the funny story about David is
Oh, for
he
people who
was
don't know, David Diggs is the
yeah
guy from Hamilton. You
right
know,
the
Thomas
dude from
Jefferson or
Hamilton,
whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jefferson or Lafayette, and
Yeah.
he wrote this co-wrote this thing and co-starred in it, Blind Spotting, right, which is
Blind
this
spotting. What did I call it?
right.
Train spotting.
Oh,
It's a
it's
different
fine.
movie.
I mean, it's not my movie. It's fine.
It's
But
fine.
but he was in this other movie. I think it's called Wonder.
Okay.
And so they did an early screening of it in Chicago some years back when it came out, and uh, they asked me to like interview him, and I'm like, okay, cool. And at that time, my nephew had like gotten. I hope this doesn't embarrass him. Sorry, man. He had gotten suspended from school for like having a little run in, a little
A little
Will Smith,
tussle.
Chris Rock
Yeah.
moment situation, and so but he was reading the book Wonder at the time, and it happened
Okay.
to be he happened to get suspended right at this exact moment, and so it was kind of cool because I like for the time he was spending like maybe 2 days, and I like he stayed with me, and I like took him to work and like made him do
Mm.
his homework, and then we like that was like one of the things we went to, and we like hung out with David, and I was like, oh, this is
Sounds
my
like
nephew.
real punishment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like not a good uncle in that respect, but I did like make him
That's
do
like not what uncles
calisthenics.
are for. Uncles are not for punishing people, I
Yeah,
don't think. That's what
I made
parents
him.
are for.
I think I made him like wake up at 5 a.m. and like do push-ups and then
Okay.
help me
Okay.
organize
So
books.
just
So
some
that was kind
physical
of
abuse. Okay, fair.
I don't know. I was in a fraternity, so that makes sense to me. I don't know.
Okay, that works. That works. Okay, wait. So here's what I want to know. This is like my
Mhm.
big question. You are a very cool guy. You're young ish, but just not compared to your students, but you're
There it
young
is.
in the scheme of the world. And you're a poet. And, like I said, poetry used to be sort of like a cool, like mainstream thing for like, it had like its moment. But how do you feel about the idea that like so many people, myself included, are so intimidated by the art that you make or like the work that you do?
First off, thank you for calling me a cool young person. I am so deeply moved. Um, I think yeah, poetry definitely had a moment like in that kind of late '90s to the 2000s through the 2000s kind of moment. In some places it happened, with slightly different timelines, but broadly. And in certain ways we're out of that moment, but in a lot of ways I think we're actually still in it, right? Because you still are seeing the fruits of that time really continue to make waves in the culture, even if you're not actively thinking about it as that. So I think
Right.
about like what Rafa and David are getting up to in Hollywood. The head writer of Ironheart is for Marvel is Chinaka Hodge, who like came up in the Bay and was
Oh,
like a
I
part of
know
that scene as well.
Shanaka.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the homie. And then like I mean, Amanda Gorman like comes out of
Of course.
some of that same youth programming, right? Chance the Rapper and Vic Mensa and Saba and a lot of those folk, no name, who came out of Chicago, like, we were coming up in the same youth communities and running around some of the same organizations and institutions. And so, yeah, even if like the specific art form, it doesn't feel as sort of trendy, I still
Mhm.
think like it very much has a kind of presence that continues to make waves. But yeah, to the sort of second part of the question of like what does it mean or how do I feel that like people are like intimidated by it? I think it makes sense. I think we teach poems in kind of I think most of us are introduced to poems as poems in school. And in that school setting, we're often exposed to them in ways that are really, I don't want to say bad or negative. I don't want to like bad talk teachers, but I think that the way that we frame poems is often really unhelpful,
Mhm.
right? We kind of frame poems as like non-mathematical word problems
Mm.
where there is a single answer, and and they're kind of like a part of like how we build reading comprehension
Right,
in
right, right,
in,
right.
in the kind of P12 space. And I just think that that's like a bad idea, right? Because like For me, like a poem is all about wonder, right? It's all about like whether like the thing that's being described in the poem opens up some level of wonder for me, or I wonder what is going on, or what have you, right?
Hmm.
And I don't. That is maybe a little bit fluffy, and maybe this is why I don't. I'm like not teaching middle school, and I'm instead doing the college thing where I can pontificate like that, and it's
Right, right, right.
acceptable. But I think if we started from a place of wonder and started from a place of like, look, if you don't know what's going on here, that's okay. What do you notice? Then poems would feel a lot more approachable to people. But I will say, I think that we're constantly surrounded by poetry. We don't always recognize it as poetry, right?
Right,
Like a lot of our music, especially now, it's in part because hip hop is so dominant and so influential, even to other kinds of music. A lot of our music is deeply poetic, right? Just at the level of language, it's very text
right,
heavy. You see a lot of television and film now engaging kind of poetic device, right? I think also like the way, and this is maybe tailed off slightly from where it was a few years ago, but even like the way that poems get pushed around the internet, whether that be via video or just the sharing of like a link to a literary journal or whatever. Like I think it's a really great moment for poetry. I think people are reading poetry a lot more than they have been in many past generations. But I think that we don't always recognize it as such, and we also maybe don't. Even though we might be reading a lot of poetry or experiencing a lot of poetry, we're not reading books of poems, and so we don't think about the poetry at the level of the book in the same way that we think about like a novel or we think about a short story. Because like there really isn't with a novel, there's not another way to experience the novel. There is the book or the audio book or
right.
whatever, but like that's the book is just a unit of meaning. That's not true of poems. I can break it down a million different ways. And so it seeps in, but you don't necessarily know.
Right. I feel like the way when I think of poems, the first thing I think of is like a white man in nature. And I have zero idea like exactly what that specific reference is for me because I don't know
Yeah,
any poems that I can think of like off the top of my head about like a white man in nature, but like that's what it evokes in me. Like
sure,
I never think of like, oh, a poem. I don't think of like a rap song that I love or even like a singing song that I love. And I don't think
sure.
of Bosia, even though I have had much more experience with that kind of poetry. That's just like not what I think of. Do
Yeah,
you feel like that is common for the young people that you interact with? I know that you were like involved with Chicago's
yeah.
curriculum and like I know you're in college now, but like you've had a lot of experience with young people. Like is that how people are is that what their entry point is? Like something that's white and distant and not necessarily like what the possibility within poetry can be?
Yeah, I think it depends on the student, right? So I think students who are really excited about poems, I think often like I have this phrase that I'll use sometimes with my friends where we talk about kind of like first poets, like who are your first poets? So like Bosia is one of my first poets, right? He's one of
Okay.
the first people that I saw that I really was like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm interested in what he's up to. And I think that if a young person, if I encounter a young person, they're sort of excited about poetry, they're on fire for it, then often they've had some good first poets. And I think there's a lot of
Mm,
people contemporarily who are that. So I think of like Sarah Kay and Phil Kay. I think of Eve Ewing, my homie. I think of Warsan Shide. I think of Ruby Kaur, right? All these sorts of folks, right? And many others, right? But I think if you've had like a kind of more negative or maybe more alienating first poet experience, then it's some of the people you're talking about, right? And that could be like someone like William Wordsworth, who's like doing this pastoral situation, or Bobby Ice, aka Robert Frost, who's like, snowy woods and
right.
I
My
took the road
nightmare,
less traveled,
snowy
all this kind of
woods.
stuff. But
Yeah.
like, here's my thing with that stuff too, is like I'm a nerd about this shit. So like I like that stuff too, but I don't know if that is the place where you start.
Right.
Because I think first maybe like it helps to have something that maybe more reflects you, or at least like is strange to you in some ways where you lean in,
Right.
and then you can like appreciate some of the really interesting and really like special stuff that will happen in a Robert Frost poem like Out Out, or in William Wordsworth like We Are Seven or whatever, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
I think one of the things I also think that's really interesting is like for me, I love William Shakespeare. And what I love most is like the text in verse. I love the iambic pentameter. Like I love
Sure.
the rigidity of that, and like also what you can do with a line like "Now is the winter of our discontent" because you can break. I love that stuff, but I do not think of that as poetry, even though I intellectually know that's poetry. And I think some of it for me is like I don't think of the stuff that I enjoy as poetry. Like
Right,
in my
because
mind, I think that poetry is like white men outside doing
right,
things that I do not understand. Like you said, it's like a mathematical problem. There is one right answer and I do not have it.
right,
But when I think about the poetry that I do like and the things that have excited me, Shakespeare included, but also like your work, Clint Smith, Hanif Abdurraqib, Dwayne Betts, like Eve Ewing, I'm not like, oh, that person's a poet. I'm like, oh, this poem is cool, And it's like this different like energy around it. And I don't know exactly why I have this like aversion to the idea of poetry, even though I have so many examples of poetry that I actually really enjoy. And I still don't understand a lot of it, but like it doesn't bother me as much. I
yeah,
don't know.
no, for sure. I mean, I think I kind of am into the fact that like the poems you like, you just don't think of as poems.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, in part because for me, like one of the cool things about poems is that they're sneaky,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like they're subtle, right? And
Right, right,
so
right.
because they can end up anywhere, right? You could have a poem, you know, on your bus card, or like, they
Right.
have that's like a thing they do in New York, or like you could have a poem plastered on the wall somewhere, or you could have a poem, included in like some sort of weird commercial to sell you Nikes or whatever.
Right.
Regardless of sort of how we might feel about all those different kinds of placements, the fact that poetry can move in those kinds of ways
Hmm.
is different, and it is different. This is what I mean when I say like a novel can't do that.
Right.
Maybe a piece of it, but like not a not a sort of self-contained thing, and that makes it slippery in this way, right? So
Right. Right. Right.
yeah, so that I like that. I think that has a real potential. I think that has a real resonance.
Yeah. Okay. I touched on this earlier, but I'm so curious about this. And of course, like somehow we're already like running out of time. We're not really, but like we are, and it's making me crazy. But I know that you're back at the end of the month. And so I'm saving some of my more poetry specific questions for
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
But so you wrote a literary arts curriculum for Chicago
yeah. Well, I
and
co-wrote it, but
co-wrote.
yes.
Okay. But had a hand in that. What
Mhm.
does that mean? What does that entail? And how do you build such a thing?
Absolutely. So I
But,
mean, it
like,
was
I know that's, like, a lot of huge questions,
yeah.
so you just do your best to bring it in for yourself.
Yeah. Well, it was a sort of crew of us. It was a collaborative effort when we did this. And wow, that might have been that's like almost 10 years ago. I guess I am old.
Wow.
Dang, that's
You
crazy.
are. You're doing
Um,
curriculum 10 years ago? You're super
right,
old.
right then. But shout out Jamila Woods, who was like one of the people who worked on that as well.
Mm,
But I think that basically what it was is like we were doing workshops all over the city and beyond. Myself and a number of other folks who kind of were working as teaching artists. And so, in a lot of ways, the curriculum wasn't necessarily like building a new thing. More so, what it was saying like, okay, let's take some of the like lesson plans that we do either in classrooms where we have residencies or as a sort of drop-in thing or before an open mic or what have you. Let's try to sort of codify some of those things and build some infrastructure around them so that just like your classroom teacher can take some of these things in there, right? And the cool thing about that is, especially with that project, is like we were using like sort of traditional poems, but we were also using songs like rap songs, R&B songs, also all different kinds of music. We were using speeches like we had a kind of partnership with the Voices of the People's History. So we were using like speeches from Fred Hampton or from union
mm,
organizers and whatever. And it also part of what the sort of aim of that curriculum was to try to at least primarily focus or build it around writers who had a kind of Chicago tie, right? Were from the
okay.
city or had lived and worked in the city or were writing about the city or whatever, with the idea being again that, right, like that would be a thing that would allow young people from across, that very vast, very diverse city to like have a little bit of a point of identification, whether that's Young Lee or Fred Hampton or Gwendolyn Brooks or Margaret Walker or whomever, right? Like that, so that was kind of the aim of it. And then it was like we also had like really good people who did stuff that was more sort of on the like curriculum development side
Okay.
who were able to like take the kind of like weird artist educator language that we spoke and push that into like something that was legible to like people concerned with like Common Core and meeting standards in that way.
Got it.
So it was cool. It was like it was definitely an interesting project, and I was doing that. It was like right around when I was in graduate school too. So I was
Okay.
like in a very different way entrenched in this sort of poetic education, and so that was like a cool moment because it allowed me and forced me to be thinking about, okay, yeah, I'm in this like fancy university, but how do I make that knowledge
Right.
legible? Not because it's not like it's too hard for any of these young people or for teachers to get, but if I'm having that, but how can I have that discourse just in a way that's approachable for them, right? To your
Right.
point.
Right. That's so I'm fascinated by the idea of like this literary arts curriculum. I love this. Okay, before we move on, just really quickly, because here I am, a theater major who loves Shakespeare and plays in general, and you write plays. You've
Yes,
written plays.
allegedly, yes.
I
No, I
feel
do.
like I don't think we've ever actually had a playwright on this show. That's not true. That's not true. Our Eric Thomas was on and he writes plays, but I didn't ask him about it. So, first of all, writing plays is really fucking hard. That I know. I've seen it enough to know that there's a lot of horrible plays in the world and they're really hard to do. But how do you approach writing things? I guess generally, like, because how do you know when it's going to be a poem or a prose or a play? Like, how do you approach that sort of stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of times, like, I sort of move through the different things, right? So I wrote this one play um, that I haven't. I should probably think about what I want to do with it. But like the play kind of happens, like there are moments of verse in it, right? There are moments where it's kind of narrated, almost in like something approaching or sitting in between like what folks might think of as like spoken word and like rap, right? So I think I'm always working across things pretty
Mhm.
naturally, and sometimes I'll use one form to figure out another, right? So because I'm really comfortable in poems, sometimes I'll write a poem to try and figure out voice for something
Mm,
that's like longer, different, or like if I'm thinking about like something that's like fiction, I've done things where I've written little play things or written sort of like almost like scenes, just like
mhm,
sort of
mhm.
standalone scenes or whatever as a way of like breaking character, right? As
Right.
a way to try and like so for me, like they're all sort of functioning together. I would say like where how something comes into the world a lot of times is like much less a matter of me and much more a matter of like capitalism and like who's trying to pay me for it or or whatever.
Right, right, right. Do you have a favorite? Like, if you could only write in one form forever, you could never
Mm,
do something else, which one would you pick? What would you
wow.
pick?
Wow, that's a tough question.
It's a really fucked up question, actually. So thank you for
Yeah.
like humoring me.
Honestly, probably what it would be, it'd be rap songs.
Okay.
It'd be rap songs. Cause
Do you play
one,
like make your own beats and stuff or no?
I am not very good or dedicated
Okay.
at it.
Okay. Okay.
Uh
That's fair.
But like for me, like this is one of the things that I love about hip hop and just about making music in general is at least the ways that I've done it and the ways I'm most interested in it. It's so collaborative.
Hmm.
And like that's the thing I also love about the theater.
Same.
And again, right, like going back to when I first started writing, like that promise or potential of community is the thing that made me feel like I want to do this.
Right, right, right.
Um and so I think it would be that because it's like fun to me, because it's like sort of legible to people and it feels approachable to people. And because it becomes like a way to sort of hang out with my friends and like build friendships and build on relationships and that's cool. That's if I'm just like making a decision with my heart. I guess if I were making it with my head, it would be poems because like
You can
that'll
sell
probably,
those.
yeah, you know, I just
Yeah.
that'll give me tenure. So like I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. I prefer the heart answer, but I respect the head answer. Okay. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with Ask the Stacks on the other side. Valentine's Day is upon us, and I've got love on the brain. Love for books, duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. Okay, we are back. I have not prepped you for this, so here it is. Someone has written in, they're asking for book recommendations. I'm going to read to you what they said, and then you're going to recommend at least one book, but if you want to do 2 or 3, feel free.
Okay. Well,
I'll go first so that you have a little time to think, but I might steal your answers and I'm not sorry.
Okay.
This one comes from Joe, and Joe says, I have been really into short stories this year. I have recently read and enjoyed the following: Blood Child and Other Stories by Octavia E. Butler, The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu, We Live in Water by Jess Walter, Islands of Decolonialized Love by Leanne Simpson. My top 3 moods, according to my story graph, are reflective, emotional, and challenging. I don't know what those words mean, but okay. I haven't read a collection of short stories in a couple of months, so would love recommendations. Thank you. Okay. Here is what I have for you, Joe. I am not a huge short story person. I've recently gotten into them, so I'm sure these are very basic, but they're the ones that stick out to me. The first is Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. It is sort of sci-fi-y and dark and twisty, and the first story in this collection is one of the best short stories I've ever read, called The Finkelstein Five. It's wild. We did it on the podcast, so if you do read it, there's an episode for you and an interview with Nana. The second one is called Lot by Brian Washington. It is so good. There's some like interconnected stories. It's about Houston, like Black and brown folks in Houston. Each story is like a different street in Houston. His writing is so good. It's just so good. And then the last one is Heads of the Colored People by Nafisa Thompson Spires, which is like the weirdest, coolest Black people you've ever met in all of the stories. And there's these stories about these 2 moms in like school who are battling over their kids and like respectability politics, and it's like there are these letters back and forth. It is so good. I think it's called like La Belle Lettre or something like that, The Beautiful Letters. Okay, but those are my 3. Nate, do you have 1, 2, or 3 short story collections that you want to recommend?
Yeah, I got this. I love short stories also.
Okay. Oh, good.
All right, so first one I'll say is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. Really interesting collection. I really love. I've taught it maybe twice, which is like rare for me because I just try to cycle books. But I really like that one. It has like a little bit of like a little bit of like a gothic
Hmm.
sensibility, a little bit of like there are some sort of vaguely sci-fi kind of situations going on. Yeah, but really, really great story collection that I love a lot. Then I'll say Disha Philia's The Secret Lives of Church Ladies.
Yes. I did
Um,
not say that because I'm obsessed with that book and I feel like I talk
yeah,
about it all the time, but it is so good.
it's so good. That was probably like my best read of last year, I want to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that joint. Yeah, kind of all the stories, particularly like the one with the cobbler.
Yeah. Peach Cobbler.
Yeah, the peach cobbler joint, and then How to Make Love to a Physicist. That's like the one
Mm.
people are always talking about.
My favorite is
But
Yael. Do you remember that one about the girl Yael,
yes,
Jael?
yes, 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 yes.
That's
Okay,
my favorite. That
yeah,
was the
that's
one that
fair.
I was like, yo,
That's
Disha's
fair.
crazy.
That's fair. Um, yeah, and then the last one is The World Doesn't Require You by
Mm,
Rian Almaker Scott. He's a great guy. We like were on a panel a few years back together about Kendrick Lamar or something.
mm,
But like I love his sort of sensibility. I love and just like that sense of that set of short stories. It's built in this kind of like invented black town in like Maryland, and it really has this like competing sense of the mundane and the fantastic, right?
mm.
So like one of the stories, I think it's maybe like the first one, the kind of one of the central characters is like God's son,
Ooh,
but like his like fifth or sixth son. And God
not
seems like
Jesus.
no, just like some dude, like
Got it. Like Mark.
Jerry
Yeah.
Price or whatever, right? I don't know.
Okay.
And he's and like yeah, God seems like me, seems like just okay, but yeah, so whatever that story collection like has a real sense of like fun and irreverence, but it's also smart as hell. So yeah,
Okay.
that's three.
Those are so good. Joe, if you read any of those, you have to let us know what you think. Everyone else, you can get your book recommendations read on the air by emailing askthestacks@thestackspodcast.com. Okay, now we get to talk about Nate's favorite books and least favorite books. We're going
Okay.
to start. I'm excited because we have not really talked about your taste in books very much yet. So I'm excited
Mhm.
to sort of see what you're reading because we've been talking so much about like specifically just like poems. So this is really thrilling for me because usually by this point in the episode, I know all the answers that I'm going to get, but I don't know any of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Two books you love, one book you hate.
Ooh, book I hate. Wow, that's rough.
We're going to get spicy.
Okay, books I love. I'll say Dubliners, which is another short story
Oh,
collection by James Joyce. Very
okay.
random. I think I stole it from a bookstore when I was in high school,
Okay.
and I was like, "Oh, this is
What's
cool."
the
That was like,
statute of limitations on this crime is what I need to
yeah,
know.
it's fine. Honestly, I stole so many books in high school, like a
Wow.
tremendous number of
Do you
books.
still
I'm
have a
sorry.
lot of them?
I do have like a good number of them. I
That's
have
good.
yeah, and like honestly, like high school me had some good instincts because like it
Yeah.
was like that and like a Bell Hooks joint and like yeah,
Great.
I was like oh
Great.
okay, I was like up to some interesting stuff in my like hoodlum days, but
Yeah.
yeah, so that's one. What's another one that I love? Oh, I'll say Robert Hayden's American Journal.
I don't know
That
that.
it's a book of poems. It's Robert Hayden like really important, really great 20th century Black poet. And this book, I'll just sort of give you this. The book opens with a poem sort of in the voice of Phillis Wheatley,
Okay.
I believe. So it's like I think it's Phillis Wheatley like kind of writing to this other this enslaved Black dude who she like had a correspondence with, like, and I believe that that is like historically accurate. And then the book ends with this poem called American Journal that's in the voice of an alien who's like come down and like infiltrated and is like living amongst
Wow.
the Americans and being like, oh, this is so weird. And if you think about that, like think about that, those as bookends, right? Because like what is like Wheatley Peters, if not a kind of, someone who's been
Right.
dropped into a space that is not her own and is
Right.
kind of
Right. Right.
having to appraise and figure out how to survive and being both like repelled and attracted by it. And then you see that, so you get it in this historical way and then you get it in this sort of like Afro-future way. So like that joint, it goes very hard. Book I hate, Heart of Darkness. I don't know. Like, yeah,
Okay.
that's cool. Yeah, I just
Okay.
me,
That's
me.
okay. I've never read it, but I feel like someone else has said it on this show.
Yeah,
So
you're good.
yeah,
You're
I'm
all
not going
set.
to. What are you reading right now?
Right now, I'm reading South to America by Monty
Oh,
Perry. Yeah,
isn't it so good?
it's very good. It's very good.
Oh my God. What she is doing. She was the guest on last week. Well, when people
Yeah,
are
yeah,
listening
yeah,
last week, but it was today. And she is just so brilliant. It's like almost upsetting because I'm like,
yeah.
how did she do it? Oh my
Well,
God.
well, yeah. I've been rocking with her forever because, like, she did years ago this book about hip hop that
Yeah. Prophets
is
of Prophets
Prophets of the Hood,
of
right?
the Hood. I just bought it. I haven't read
Yeah,
it yet, but I just bought it.
yeah. And I really love that book. Like, I think it's. I mean, it's probably a little bit dated now, just because like the culture has changed a lot. But
Hmm.
I still think it's one of the smartest things that has been written on hip hop music. And so I love that book. I love like the joint she did about the Black National Anthem. I love
Mm.
the I really love the one she did about Lorraine Hansberry.
Oh yeah. Looking for
So yeah,
Lorraine.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, so I'm reading that, and what else am I reading? Oh,
Do
I
you
just
read a lot of
finished.
books at once, or are you like a one book person?
I'll do multiple things, but they kind of have to be just really discrete for me. So
Okay.
like that could be genres or just like they're really wildly different or formats. So like at any given time, I'm usually like reading a physical book. I'll have like one or two things on my little tablet situation. So, and sometimes those will be like things that are coming out. So I'm like reading this novel now by this wonderful writer named Jamila Minix Gleason. What else? Oh, and then I'm listening. I just finished listening to this book called Read Until You Understand,
Hmm.
which is a really beautiful book. I cannot remember the woman's name. I
It's
should look
okay.
it
I'll
up. But
find it. I'll put it in the show notes.
yeah,
So there'll be
but
a link to
she,
it there.
yeah, it's great. It's sort of like reads. It's sort of autobiographical, and then it reads her life and sort of her life and experience through these like texts of black literature, right? So we'll like get something that's thinking about mercy, and
Mhm.
then she'll kind of close read pieces of like Toni Morrison's A Mercy, and
Mhm.
then Phillis Wheatley's "'Twas Mercy Brought Me from My Pagan Land" to my
Got it.
benighted soul to understand, and like, whew,
That's
that
cool.
it goes very hard. It's very beautiful. So yeah,
I love the description of a book going very hard. I feel like that needs to be more in my vernacular. Like I never say that about a book, but I mean that about so many books. Like there's so many
yeah,
books where I'm like, that book went so hard. And I just need to, I'm going to steal that from you and be saying it a
please
lot.
do,
You
please
heard it
do.
here first. Okay. This is like sort of a general question. Are there any genres of books that you don't read or that you avoid? And then are there any genres of books, like if a new book comes out in this like specific niche sort of genre or topic, you're like, I will be reading this.
Wow, that's a great question. I've never gotten much into fantasy.
Okay.
It's just a kind of gap. Like, as a kid I read the Harry Potter things and I read like a few other things and like some of those things I loved, but like I just never it was never like a space I wanted to dip into all that much.
Hmm.
And then something that like a thing that I sort of reach for. I don't know if there are. I'll say like there was a point I think when I was in high school, when I was in my book stealing phase,
Okay.
where I was just like, I sort of need to have every book that is about hip hop, right? And at that
Okay.
time, this is like the early mid 2000s. There weren't that many, so it actually wasn't that hard to do that.
Got it.
So yeah, so like that is a thing. I think I've probably fallen off that a bit, but
So like basically every book by Jeff Chang.
yeah, Jeff Chang's the homie. Shout out to Jeff. Yeah, yeah. Another out in Berkeley, another Bay dude.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Funny enough, I want to say his kid was in one of his sons was in the program First Wave that Rafa worked at because the world
Oh,
is that big. Yeah.
wow. Small
Um,
world. I love that.
but yeah, so that was kind of my wave. I'll say now it's probably more like if I see any book that seems to be like a sort of like hip hop influenced or like potentially hip hop influenced poetry book, I just like err on the side of getting it.
Right.
because it activates me in multiple ways, and because I probably like feel like it's at least a part of my thing. So like I should
Right.
just know who's doing what.
Is that so? Okay, I haven't read it yet, so
Yeah,
I am like totally not prepared
it's
till
good.
for next week's conversation. But is that doppelgang banger? Is that hip hop inspired poetry? Is that what you would call that?
I mean, in some ways, in certain ways, right? The thing I love about that book too, and you know, I don't want to, because we're not going to talk all
Just give
about it, but
a little teaser about what you love.
right. Well, I think that book deals really intelligently with the sort of various ways in which blackness manifests in some of these like, and some of the kind of cultural disconnections, right? So the writer Courtney Lamar Charleston like came up in the suburbs of Chicago, right? And so I think that there's this way in which he's wrestling with like black class in a
Mm,
way that I really love, and that I often think gets missed because, in part, because we so often think of black people as only the underclass or whatever, and so we don't
right.
have much imagination for like the black people that exist in suburban spaces, black people that are sort of upwardly mobile, or the black people who are the
Yeah.
children of those folks, whatever, right? And I always am just I'm just like fascinated in some of the ways that gets wrestled with and that gets rendered. If that
Mm,
makes sense.
I'm so excited. Okay, what's a book that you love to recommend to people?
Anything by Lucille Clifton. I
Okay.
mean, I usually will start with like Blessing the Boats because it's kind of the biggest selected and it has probably like the biggest swath of her work. Um, there's also a newer one called How to Carry Water. But yeah, I think she's like great poet, like really interesting, important, like you know, 20th century black poet. So that's one that I'm often like putting in people's hands, especially if they're like I find poetry unapproachable. I don't like poetry. I don't think I like poetry. Like that's a great place to start, and then you'll be like, oh, turns out poetry's cool. Cool.
Poetry school. You listen to audiobooks. Do you have a favorite audiobook?
On Beauty by Zadie Smith.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Does she read it?
No, she doesn't. The reader is kind of great. And the thing that I love about that book is like, oh man, I don't want to get in trouble. Let me be judicious in my
Okay. Oh
language
gosh.
selection. Um, so it's like it's a male narrator. I don't remember his name, but that book has a lot of different accents at play
Mm,
because it sort of takes place in this kind of fictionalized college town just outside of Boston, a la like Cambridge or any
okay.
of these, whatever.
Right, right, right.
And so you get the accent of the father character who's like a professor and is like this white British dude, and then the mother who's this black woman with southern roots, and then one of the sons is like very into hip hop, and he's
Got
kind
it.
of trying to like, and he has this sort of like mixed kid whatever situation, and so he's trying to like affect a bit like his
Right, right, right.
vision of like a hood accent or whatever, and then there's Haitian characters and there's other Caribbean characters, there's a multitude of British characters and a multitude of like various kinds of American characters, and that dude is just like he has a real facility with trying to capture all those different
Mm,
registers in a way that I just find I enjoy listening to, and I think it actually, in certain ways, I think it works better as an audiobook than as like I've read that book in college, and I think it maybe works better in audio than it does like on the page at moments. That's why I was like, let me be careful because
oh,
I'm not
I
trying to
love
like
that.
start
Right,
a
right,
beef
right.
with Zadie Smith, but
There are definitely books that are better for me audio than on the page. Okay, this
absolutely.
is sort of our little lightning round. What's the last book that made you laugh?
Maybe The Secret Lives of Church Ladies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the last book that made you cry?
Ooh, Read Until You Understand. Yeah.
Okay. Last book that made you angry.
4,000 Weeks. Yeah, 4,000 Weeks, which is
Okay.
like, yeah, it's a
I don't
random
know that.
nonfiction book I read.
Okay. What's the last book that you felt like you learned a lot?
Man, South to America, which I'm not done with, but yeah, that's one.
Oh, so good. It's my book of the year. I just think it's so good. Are there any books that you feel proud about having read?
I'll give you two that are sort of weird. and I mostly feel proud, I think, because I read them very young, and
Okay.
this is a thing I derived pride from when I was young. One, this is a book that I stole, The Godfather. So I read
Okay.
The Godfather years before I ever saw the films.
Okay.
It, yeah, sorry to Whitney Young High School Library,
Okay.
but whatever, it's fine. Y'all get over it. And then Roots, which I like asked
Mm.
for, Alex Haley's Roots. I asked for it for Christmas when I was in like sixth grade, and then I read it, and I did like the accelerated reader quiz at school for it.
Wow.
And yeah, so those are like two.
Did
I don't.
you read it before you saw the movie or
I
series?
still haven't seen all of it. I've watched
What?
like maybe the first episode or two of Roots, but I'm also like, there's some stuff where I'm like, I don't necessarily need to see that.
Yeah. Well, I saw it so
You
young.
know,
It was like actually an introduction to slavery for me. Like now
right,
I don't know that I would need to watch it again. Like I sort of feel like I would
right,
get the picture, but I saw it like as a child. Like when you were reading it and
yeah.
stealing it and stuff, or when you asked for it as a gift,
You
I had like seen it multiple
yes,
times somehow. Um,
damn,
do you have any
I love that.
problematic favorite books?
Yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. I don't do I have to say that? They're
Yes, you
problematic
have
for
to
a
say
reason.
at least one.
Okay, here's one, and this is like, I hope I can get a pass, and whatever. It's a generational thing. Harry Potter, and like,
Oh, yeah.
I still, and I'll say this, like, I still probably listen to those audiobooks like maybe once a year, like
Really?
the
All of
whole
them? Oh
the
my
whole
God. I've never even
one
read
because
a single sentence of those books.
one, the narration of the audiobooks is
Really
great.
good.
This is dude Jim Dale, like so good. But yeah, they just like remind me of my childhood. Like I feel deeply nostalgic. They were like a thing that me and my sort of elementary school best friend like shared with each other, and so
Mm.
they take me back to a very loving place. But old girl trash, she be tripping. So I don't know.
Yeah, she's horrible. I've never read the books and now I never will because we
Yeah,
found out she was horrible before I ever read
yeah,
them. So
you're
now
fine.
I'm like, I don't
You're
have a
fine.
relationship. I don't fucking care. Oh, is there any book that you think people would be surprised to know that you love?
Oh, this isn't a book necessarily. Well, would people be surprised to know that? I don't know what would surprise people. Um, who are people? Wow,
I don't
sorry.
know.
This
I
is
mean,
this
you're
is what
asking a
happens
lot of,
when,
you're taking this really deep.
yeah.
Okay. Very
This
poet
is
brain of you.
right. That's the poet thing. I think people are surprised when they find I have like a deep affection for Robert Frost.
Okay.
There's also this is a random one. There's this group of poets from like the early 20th century, like 1920s, 1930s, called the Fugitive Poets or the Southern Agrarians. And I quite like a lot of their poetry. The reason why people would be surprised is one, that's a little obscure. Two, they were fantastically racist.
Yeah,
They
I
were a
feel
bunch
like,
of
yeah.
white dudes in Tennessee, but so, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have
yeah,
a
so
question for you that's unrelated to your book taste, but this
let's
is a
go.
really important question that I am so glad I have a poet. E. E. Cummings. I know that's a
Yeah,
poet. What was
yes.
that person like? Like, when did that person write? The reason I'm asking is because when my father passed away, I was too emotional to speak at his funeral, but I really wanted to do something. And so I read an E. E. Cummings poem that I loved and I still love, but I know nothing about E. E. Cummings at all. Is that a man? Is that a woman? Is that
Yes.
a young person? Is that a white
Yes.
person? Is that a person from 1800? Is that a person from 2015? Like,
Wow.
help
I
me.
love this. I love this. So E.E. Cummings was like kind of early, like first half of the 20th century poet.
Okay.
A white guy, as
Okay.
many of the first
That
half
was
of the
my
20th
guess,
century
but I just
poets
wasn't
was.
sure. I thought maybe there was a chance it was like a Chinese woman or
Yeah.
something and I could be happy.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I like E.E. Cummings. There's like he has a few bangers. I actually, funny enough, there's an E.E. Cummings poem. I think it's called like "I Carry Your Heart in My Heart" or something like that.
Hmm.
That I read at Eve Ewing's wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have a
Okay.
very
So E.
which
Cummings is like down with the peeps. Like E. Cummings isn't
yeah, I mean,
like,
the
okay.
people the people are rocking with E. Cummings, relatively speaking, especially like in comparison to like some of his contemporaries are like, fine poets and legitimately sort of awful people. And
Okay. That's what I need
he
this for.
doesn't, at least to my knowledge, have those same kinds of stains as, say, like Ezra Pound, who like was
Okay.
a fascist and like writing stuff, like writing propaganda for the Italian government during World War II. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, so
Great.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
He was
he's
like
one of
cool
the,
given the time.
yeah, you know.
Okay. Okay, good. Oh, I feel so good about myself. Yay. Okay. This literally read this poem 10 years ago.
Love
Think
it.
about it all the time. Don't remember anything except for like the first line, but I'm like too scared to look it up. So I'm glad I had you to hold my hand through that
No, it's
moment.
great. It's
Uh,
great.
do you have any favorite books about where you're from? So Chicago, South side of Chicago.
Do I?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tell
Well,
us.
first off, there was a while where I was sort of keeping track of like books that referenced not just Chicago or the South Side, but specifically reference like the far South Side, like the hundreds where I'm from.
Okay.
There's like four. One is Barack Obama's first memoir, Dreams from My Father.
Okay.
And I actually I really like that book.
It's a good book.
There's like another weird Chicago poet connection in that, because there's this, when he's in Hawaii, there's this old dude, this old black man named Frank, who like hung out with his granddad and was like a drinking buddy of his grandfather, who kind of like is basically his sort of like, is like the only sort of, seems to be the only older black man with whom he like ever has in-depth conversations as a young person. And Frank is this dude named Frank Marshall Davis, who is like a really important poet, who was black poet, who was writing in Chicago in like the 30s and 40s, but was like a socialist, and so ended up going to Hawaii because like, you know, government
Wow.
repression or whatever. So, you know, that's random. So yeah, I'll say that
So
one.
Obama is a socialist, is what you're saying.
Look, you know what I'm saying?
Wow, we cracked it right here.
There it is. Look, Obama is unfortunately not a socialist.
So unfortunately not a socialist.
Such is life. So that. I guess his book will be one. There's this book by a guy named Alex Kotlowitz called Never a City So Real, A Walk in Chicago, that I really love. I'm trying to think. I mean, Sandra Cisneros, House on Mango Street would be one. My homie Jose Olivares, Citizen Illegal, would be one. Yeah, there's more, but yeah.
Okay.
We'll go there.
I have just one more question for you.
Oh, and sorry, Gwendolyn Brooks,
Oh.
like A Street in Bronzeville.
Oh, okay. Okay, here's my last one for you. I stole this from the New York Times by the book. If you could require the president to read one book, what would it be?
Oh, yes, I've seen this one. Wow. Oh, man. I have so little interest in presidents or faith in them that it's hard to say. I mean, I guess maybe my joint, like as a matter of pure self-interest. You know, take your pick.
Dealer's choice.
Like this is my thing about it. I really like that question. I think that there are some presidents who are readers and some who are not, but I don't know that there are presidents that are like readers and then using that, like using the wisdom from that reading to like really intelligently and compassionately craft legislation or craft policy. And so because of that, I think assigning presidents reading is mostly a fool's errand.
Sure.
But yes, they can read my joint and maybe they'll put it on a list and then like,
okay, great.
You know, I
can
pay for this wedding. Like,
well, it's funny that you say like it's a fool's errand, because I started the show during the Trump administration and the answers that I was getting were just like so crazy and like wild, because it's like such an absurd question when it comes to Trump. And now like there's a different level of thought that goes into it now that it's Biden. And so the thing that I like for the question is sort of like how it's evolved over the last 4 years of this podcast. People were like recommending Trump read like children's books like Ferdinand the Bull and shit, like just like really like the shit that I read to my 2-year-olds.
Like, so Trump, you gotta read Hop on Pop.
Yeah, it was like Trump got to read his ABCs, or just like I don't know that he can read. And so, the question is like sort of an interesting question. And I was so excited when we got a new president for this question, among other reasons, but this was like one of the reasons. And the answers have actually been less thrilling than I thought, because I also realized like you said, like no one really like cares about presidents. It's like such a hypothetical.
like honestly, like they're mostly, whatever. Let
Yeah.
me not get
Yeah.
in trouble.
Yeah, no, we all know how we all feel about presidents. Okay, this is it for us today. Please go get Nate's books and send them to Joe. Send Joe a copy. My gosh, get it in Joe's hands. You have 2 poetry collections and you're an editor on the Breakbeat Poets collection.
Yes.
I'll link to everything in the show notes. The most recent one is Finna by Nate Marshall. The one before that is The Wild Hundreds. And then, as I mentioned, Breakbeat Poets. We're going to be back April 27th to talk about Doppelgang Banger by Courtney Lamar Charleston. Nate, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And everyone else, we will see you in the stacks. All right, everyone, that does it for us today. Thank you so much to Nate Marshall for being our guest. Nate will be back Wednesday, April 27th for the Stacks Book Club conversation of Doppelgang Banger by Courtney Lamar Charleston. If you love the show and want inside access to it, head to patreon.com/The Stacks and join the Stacks Pack. Make sure you're subscribed to The Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram, at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter, and check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. Our editor is Christian Duenas, our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tigirigis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.